Yes, okay. Uh, Just so the audience knows, we're waiting for a quorum, and we'll wait a couple minutes. Someone had said they would be a little late, so that we hopefully get a quorum and can continue this meeting. So at this point, we're kind of on hold. Since we still do not have the fourth person, we were told he was going to be about 10 minutes late, so we'll wait till a quarter after in hopes that we can still get this meeting done tonight. And that'll be the plan. We'll see what happens at that point. Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, staff.
Attendance noted.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of July 27th.
So moved.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And on to an opportunity for citizens to address the commission on items not on the agenda. Is there anyone that needs to address the commission for any items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. We will move on to public hearings, and item number 1 is to consider a land use application related to building addition and a change to a low-intensity office space at 7532 Lindale Avenue. Staff?
Thank you. The building at 7532 Lindale Avenue has been vacant since 2013. Previous occupant Ellis Drum Shop occupied that building and, vacated the building in 2013. There's very little documentation regarding the use of the building over the years, but it appears to have been used for a variety of low-intensity commercial service businesses. The building was constructed in 1957 and occupies a majority of the site, nearly 60% of the land area. Construction of the building was approved with only 5 parking stalls. Like a number of the city's aging commercial buildings, these details make reuse of the building itself difficult. Mr. Travis Penrod has purchased the building in hopes of constructing private music studio space for himself and his band. The building would also serve as private studio space for painting and other creative arts. Mr. Penrod's plans include construction of a second story, full reconstruction of the interior space, and improvements to the building facade and landscaping. Because the building has been vacant for over 1 year, all legally non-conforming status has expired for both the building, the use, and the property itself. In order to reuse this building in any fashion, a number of variances will be necessary. Like I said, in order to fully comply with the current codes, the building would have to be torn down and this lot combined with adjacent properties. If you'll remember, Barrett Lawn Care was recently approved to construct an addition to their building on the site immediately north of this one, which further limits the possibility of site assembly and complete redevelopment at this site. Given this difficulty, the proposed use is reasonable and offers a significant improvement to the site and the physical building. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed site plan and required variances. I'm just going to go over the variances required and a couple of our thoughts behind why we're going to support those. There are a few, like I said, that are just because the building has been vacant for so long and all non-conforming status has been removed. So, for instance, minimum lot width. Today, minimum lot width is 75 feet. This is a 40-foot site. Not a whole lot that any property owner could do about that unless the site was assembled. So, lot width, lot area, parking setbacks, no parking can be accommodated on this site at all if current parking setbacks are applied. The minimum impervious surface, right now this site is existing with it's 100% impervious. The applicant's adding some landscaping and screening in every area that we could squeeze it in. So we're doing our best to reduce that. It's only coming down to 98%. The requirement is 85%. But like I said, the building is not usable if we would apply current standards. There's a vehicle access door setback, which is 20 feet from a rear property line. There's a proposed new access door at the rear of this building. It will be 15.5 feet from that rear lot line and 18 feet actually from the traveled portion of the alley. This is something that's come up with some other businesses along this particular stretch where there's some additional space between the property line and where that where the alley is actually used. And we have generally given folks credit on these tight sites for that untraveled portion of the alley. And like the report says, Public Works has reviewed this, and because the door will be used so infrequently, they're comfortable with that. Off-street parking. This is a unique type of use. It's not something that we have parking standards for, studio space or something like that. In general, we're thinking if the building were to be reused, it would be as office space. Although this is a typical office use, it is Mr. Penrod's sort of office space. And the parking requirement for a building this size would be 14 stalls. They've proposed 7. This practice space will only need to accommodate 4 to 5 people, and so we're comfortable with this reduced parking. And then anything that would come into this building, just like now, anything that comes into this building is going to have to be a very low intensity type use. And then pedestrian connection from the sidewalk. Generally, we require a separated 6-foot walk from the sidewalk to a front entry of a door. Now, there are only 3 parking spots in front of this building. There isn't room to put in a sidewalk, a dedicated pedestrian connection from the sidewalk. But with only 3 parking spots, we feel like a pedestrian could comfortably navigate that space. And so we recommended approval of that variance as well. The full findings are attached to your report. I assume you've gone over those. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And otherwise, the Environmental Health Department reviewed the proposal in terms of noise standards. We're very comfortable with the amount of engineering work that's gone into this, with saying that we don't believe that any sound will escape this building. And then there are just the general criteria for site plan evaluation, which we also find to be met. So the applicant is here, and staff, Mr. Penrod is here. I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have of me.
Any questions of staff, first of all?
Just quickly.
Go ahead.
Barrett Lawn Care, can you remind me, was that a single story going up to a second story?
Right, they're gonna keep the existing building that they mostly function out of now, and
that
they will
connects?
build a 2-story addition,
To the right? Or
yes,
to the north?
to the south.
Okay,
To the north of this building, to the south of
perfect.
Barrett's property, correct.
Thank you.
And did staff receive any calls from neighbors adjoining, any issues?
We did not. Notice was sent out to residents within 350 feet, as is our typical buffer zone, and we did not receive any calls.
Okay. And is there any issue as far as, once you put on the second story, as far as shade to the neighbors in back at
No,
all?
we don't believe the height will be enough, especially with the 15-foot setback and then the alley. We don't believe there'll be any shading of those properties to the rear.
Okay, good. Did the owner have any interest in saying anything, any words? And if so, step up there. Okay. Okay, so this is a public hearing, so if there is anyone that wishes to step up to discuss this, now's your opportunity. Okay, just if you'll step over to the podium and then sign in and also state your name and address.
I'll fill that out in a minute. The only concern I have, I'm at 7525 Aldrich, which is directly on the other side of the alley. I don't have an issue with the 2 buildings. I know Barrett just went through, and I probably should have brought it up there, but I'm just curious the process to go through getting an exemption for our fence lines. I think it's only 6 feet high that we can do now. If we can go higher to like an 8-foot fence for a little bit more privacy.
Sure, there is a process to go through for that. It's a variance process. It does come before the Planning Commission for consideration, and staff would be happy to talk to you about that. And you know, how that may or may not help protect you from anything on the other side. We'd be happy to go over that with you in the process.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wish to address the commission? Okay, I ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Motion is second. Any discussion? Other questions? Hearing none. All in favor say, okay, close this session, sorry. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. And as far as the proposed, is there a motion?
I would move approval of staff's recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I think it's a great use of a very challenging space, so.
Yeah,
Great idea.
and a space that's been empty for
Mhm.
several years now.
And I think it'll clean it up nicely, too.
Yeah.
I agree, so. Okay, anything else? Hearing none, okay, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Okay, good luck. Okay, item number 2 is ordinance amendment to the Richfield City Code to allow micro-production facilities and tap rooms / cocktail rooms in commercial and mixed-use zoning districts. Staff?
Thank you. With the state legislature's approval of the Surly Bill in 2011, microbreweries and their associated tap rooms have opened up in numerous locations throughout the metro. Richfield staff has spoken with 3 parties, actually 4 now, who have expressed interest in opening a tap room within the city. Following a study session with the City Council and the Planning Commission on July 27th, at which policymakers expressed enthusiastic support for microbreweries, tap rooms, and similar businesses, staff and the city attorney have worked with our consultant, Addison Lewis, to craft this ordinance. The ordinance will conditionally allow micro-production facilities for both beer and distilled spirits in the general business district, which is C2, mixed-use community, and mixed-use regional districts. Production capacity has been limited to 3,500 barrels of malt liquor or 40,000 gallons of distilled spirits, respectively, per year, and that's for facilities that include a tap room or cocktail room. These limitations are similar to those that were adopted by St. Louis Park, and Steel Toe Brewing is there, and Wayzata. Wayzata has approved a tap room, although it's not open. I believe it's in the next month or so. Micro-production facilities that wish to operate without an accessory tap room or cocktail room have been limited to half of those amounts. And the reason we did that is that going through this process, I think everyone was excited to welcome kind of new entertainment venues as opposed to new, more industrial type uses. So while we didn't want to prevent someone from coming in with a startup that may grow into a tap room, we didn't want just the industrial production side of things. State law allows production of up to 250,000 barrels, and communities have approved a variety of limits between 3,500 and that cap. So that we did talk about that a little bit at this study session, and that is something that the city can set on their own wherever they'd like to be, as long as it's below that 250,000. Sounded like, at least for now, the community was more comfortable with the lower limit, and that can always be increased with an ordinance change. State law limits the production of distilled spirits to 40,000 gallons, which is what we have done here as well. Communities seem to have either deferred to that limit or just prohibited production of distilled spirits. The proposed ordinance will allow the sale of growlers and bottles of distilled spirits for off-premise consumption. And the regulations include a stipulation that requires tap rooms and cocktail rooms to either provide food on site or to expressly allow patrons to bring in their own food. That's another item that you'll remember we discussed quite thoroughly at the study session. And we have discussed this more internally with public safety. Public safety's main concern is that food be available in some form, whether they're comfortable with the tap room or cocktail room not providing it themselves, but they want to be sure that folks are allowed to bring that in. Additional details and stipulations related to licensing, deliveries, odor, and that can be found in the ordinance, and we can talk about those things as well. One other item to bring up is that there's a licensing component that goes with this. We talked about that at the study session, limiting the number of these types of licenses that might be issued in the community. Right now, the draft of that ordinance, which is still being vetted with the Environmental Health Department, is set at two of each type of license. And that will go before the council alongside this portion of the ordinance. So right now, like I said, 2, but there's a possibility that that could be increased. Do you have any questions about the proposal?
Yes, I have a question. I know when we had that meeting, we also discussed the issue as far as food and alcoholic beverages. Just wanted to know how that plays into this, and are we okay with going ahead with this without having revisited that stipulation as far as what the 50% or whatever the number was?
Right. So I think we decided that at that meeting that right now we were going to separate those 2 issues. And Chair Jabs is referring to the requirement now for liquor licenses in the city that proprietors have to make at least 50% of their profits through food. And I think the decision at that meeting and the decision, as we discussed a little bit more in-house, was to continue to leave those items separate for now. We're all well aware of the fact that other restaurant owners and operators may come to us and ask for that to be removed, and I think we're open to hearing that. But right now, the priority is to get this on the books.
Okay, that was just, and I was just concerned that there might be some issue there. If we did this, then all of a sudden, you're thrown into turmoil, so didn't want that to happen, and as long as you're set, that's good. Okay, other questions? Okay. Seeing none, this is a public hearing, so this is an opportunity for the people in the audience to step forward and voice their opinion if they have to. So that this time you can do that. Anyone interested? Okay, seeing none, then I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Okay, so with that, what's your thing here as far as a motion? Is there any discussion before we go forward with that?
I think we had a very robust discussion at the work session, and I'm happy we're moving this forward, so.
Yeah, I agree. I was especially interested in the fact that they think that it will be a new tourist attraction for us and help us as far as help us again with that aspect. I thought that was positive, and I was really everybody was very upbeat about it, so that's good. As long as we've got it under, with the food and got it controlled, so I think that's the big thing. Anything else? Okay, could I have a motion then for the recommended action?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Good. Thank you. Oops, next item on the agenda is continuance, I believe, but staff, you want to go ahead?
So the applicant for 6600 Portland Avenue submitted an application in time to be on the agenda for this meeting, but did not end up completing their application in time. So we're just recommending that we continue the public hearing until next month.
Okay, so I guess I'd move to make a continuance. Need a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. Okay, next items, let's see, we go down to any new business, none, old business, none, liaison reports, community services. Their meeting, I went to they were talking about Taft Lake. They had originally applied for a grant to improve access to Taft Lake. They have since turned down the grant because there was an issue with MAC as far as that property. And so they had to shy away from it. It was a $60K, I think a $60K grant if I'm not mistaken. And instead they're just going to use the money that the rec department has, which would be $60K also. And they will put in some new docks around the lake, fishing piers in effect, that will hopefully work out nicely as far as different access to that lake where you don't have to just be standing on the shore. It'll be a little more interesting. It will have ADA accessibility to one of the main piers and just kind of clean up that that lake as far as being able to. It's always been a discussion that they've had to try to make that lake more usable in the midst, and so they're moving ahead with that. They talked about Penn Fest, but that's a done deal. It turned out, I've heard very well. Wasn't able to attend, but people I talked to said they really enjoyed their time. There was also some discussion on Monroe Park stormwater. 166th Street gets redone. They'll have to do something as far as the stormwater that comes off of 66th. And so they will be having some neighborhood meetings coming up in October where they will discuss that with the neighbors as far as how that is going to go through Monroe Park. And it takes it down to, I think, 69th Street to where they just got done doing all the new drainage down there on 69th Street. So that's that. And also some discussion, people have probably seen it, but there's a pumpkin giveaway and some information that they were talking about there. They're going to have, I think, also at that pumpkin giveaway, October 10th, I think is the date. And but there'll be more information on the website that we're going to have discussion on that overflow too, or the drain storm system. So that's about all from community services. Let's see, who's next? City Council, is that person here? Not sure. Housing and Redevelopment,
No report.
no report. Richfield School Board,
No report.
no report. Transportation Commission, no report. Chamber of Commerce,
No report.
no report. Other, none. City Planners Report,
I just wanted to mention that the Metropolitan Council recently issued system statements for all the cities and townships within the Twin Cities region. Richfield received theirs last week. So as some of you may know, that is the kickoff to our comp plan 10-year review. So right now, staff is looking over that document. The system statement essentially tells Richfield how we will be affected by the regional plans for the area: transportation, water resources, parks, our expected population growth, our expected share, or our fair share of affordable housing that we're expected to provide. So we're reviewing that document right now. We have 60 days to provide comments on the system statement itself. And then once everybody's in agreement or agrees to disagree on the system statements, we roll out the comp plan process. So you may have seen that it's in our budget for next year, doing some heavy workshops and possibly bringing on a consultant again. Some of you were probably involved. I remember some of you were involved the last time around, but just be aware that that's coming here in the next year and a half. We'll be working hard on that.
and there was some discussion. When did we move now the Edina Bloomington and Richfield Planning Commission joint session?
It's November now,
Okay.
and I can double check on that date for you.
That's fine.
We'll double check and send out a reminder on that. It did get moved from October to November.
That's what I thought. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much.